My name is David, NAAIP.org. We do have this call Monday to Thursday, 12 noon Eastern time. Saturday, doing this on this YouTube just for a couple of weeks now. My goal in the year 2021 is really to excel at YouTube as a marketer. That's what you have to do. You have to see who's doing well and imitate what those people are doing well. Eventually, even if you're not good at it, you eventually get good at it just by the law of being a human. You get better at whatever you're doing. David from Houston, Texas, who we did have a brief conversation beforehand. These calls have to be about yourself and not about myself. My company is simply a technology company that built a game-changing, really good website system. If I say those same words every day, it will get quite boring. So David, so you're in Houston, Texas. How long have you been selling financial products?
Not very long. I'm coming from the real estate world. So, for the past decade, it's been flipping houses and getting houses creatively through these foreclosures. That's been happening over the past couple of years now. And, this past year has been horrible, especially for landlords and, especially in Texas with the moratoriums and nobody wants to pay their rent. I'm like, you know what? I got to do something else. I have to find another industry.
They're not paying rent?
Yeah, they don't have to pay rent.
Well, that's a crazy situation.
We can't kick them out. We can't do anything. Our hands are tied.
Is that cause real estate prices to dip?
You would think, but right now prices are beyond high. Houses have gone up in value, which doesn't make any sense. Rents have plummeted. That $500,000 house that could rent for $5,000 a month is now renting from barely $3,000. So it's the market is crazy. But agents are flourishing. They're selling houses. But as someone who I like the wholesale side of the house, it's a little bit difficult. And I knew that going into another industry like insurance, that's where the true residual comes in place. More than real estate could ever offer.
I have to mention, we had a brief conversation before this call. I mentioned, you may have heard me say, females tend to do well in real estate. When a pretty female is showing the house to the woman get the wife, she's all happy to have a friend, and the man is just happy to have a pretty female, if it's his wife or not.
Exactly.
So there's really, we can't change that. Whatever we were born,
luckily, and that's great for the ones that are selling the houses. But unfortunately, the women are not willing to go into the abandoned houses and deal with people who aren't necessarily willing to sell. But
it's still work. It's still work. It's not just looking pretty and collecting a check. But guys have traditionally done a lot better on financial sales products because you're selling your words in a piece of paper. Sign here. There's nothing there. Okay, there's a bunch of noise in the background. Let me get rid of that noise. Should click where it says mute all. Is there a subject tab that says mute all? Okay, I'll figure it out later. But that's what I noticed. There's a lot of females coming into the financial selling business, and traditionally they won't do as well. It doesn't mean that an exceptional, hardworking female won't make double that every other guy, but traditionally, guys are more dependent on themselves to earn money as opposed to there is no other option. And it's a hard job to get in front of someone, talk, sign here.
Yeah,
it's a hard job.
Do you think that the insurance business has changed since COVID-19? Going virtual, going to their house. Do you think that's an issue now?
It's been the same industry for the past 100 years.
Yeah.
The vast majority, when you look on YouTube and you hear these numbers that 92% fail, that continues. Yeah. I'm supposed to be an expert at this, and I didn't do the settings at the top of this call properly. This business, like any financial sales, any sales business, really should be a 2 or 3 person operation. Your job as a salesperson is to get in front of someone and to close deals. That is 2 tasks. It's hard enough to be good at one task. Imagine you couple that with 2 tasks. So if you've got someone by your side, or if you're making enough money, you could employ someone to be that person. You have to get to that level where that occurs, unless you're really good at what you do. Someone who's a game-changing good salesman is going to make money in financial sales no matter what decade. This whole, people that say Zoom and and selling over the phone, you can only get you so far. The people that are the most successful sales organization the last 100 years is really New York Life. New York Life hires a very specific amount of people. They don't hire everyone. You come into their system at 55% commission. You learn the product from A to Z. Immediately afterwards, they have you write out a list of your 200 favorite friends and relatives. And you present those 200 people illustrations. You do the proper techniques of getting referrals. And if you do that, you make money. If you don't do that, you find another job going forward. There's a vast amount of people that New York Life or Mass Mutual or Northwest Mutual is not hiring. Those people happen to be coming into these independent insurance agent marketing realms. And these are the least likely people to succeed, because they will not do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. The reason I'm pretty keen on my knowledge of what the statistics are, I go into my password protected admin back office of NAIP. I see over 13,000 people have signed up for the past couple of years. And just the basic step of putting the website on your own domain name, it's a relatively small percentage. Then I go to those people that have done that. Then I look at, hey, how many of these people have done original content, which is the prerequisite of somehow, some way proving to Google that you're a professional, that you're a real company. And that's even a much lower percentage.
So you're wanting people to actually go in and actually kind of edit what's already there,
right?
Their own words.
If you click around and I'll take you to our screen share right now. Screen share. Let me just go there right now. I believe you can see my screen. Leads, yes, domains. I click. No, leads has everything to do with leads. I did mention very briefly beforehand about the proper ways to get referrals. There's a paragraph here specifically about referrals. You could join New York Life at 55% commission. They'll force you to implement this stuff, or you could do it yourself. You also have a very good information about incentive-based marketing, which is exactly what NAIP is. We give you something, you like us, then other stuff happens. You could certainly take advantage of that in whatever you're selling. Everything about domains is on this page. We click over to right here, how to move up Google, the three steps that you must do. And all Google is trying to figure out who the real companies are. That's all it is. It's nothing more fancy than that. You look at that video and you should be good to go. And if you don't follow that step in particular, you won't get good results.
And organic leads are the best leads, aren't they? They're paying $50 for a lead.
It doesn't even matter the $50. If $50 is getting you a customer, that's nice. But when you've got when you call someone up, I guess when someone gets transferred to you and they have no idea who you are, there's no good feeling that you have some sort of connection. Your close ratio will not be so great. If you control the process where these people know your name and the person before built you up as a professional, your close ratio goes through the roof. So there's nothing like, let's say you mentioned the word $50 leads. A lead coming from your website would be the equivalent to a $200 lead. There's nothing even close. So hopefully you'll take advantage of that. So inevitably, since this particular page that I showed you before about that had the Wikipedia type information about lead generation, I get a lot of calls on that. and they're always saying, hey, I need leads. I speak to them. I say, hey, sign up for a website. We'll speak on this 6-day per week video conference, Monday to Thursday, 12 noon Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And for the most part, I'm speaking to people that did not get hired from New York Life or Mass Mutual or these financial service companies. So, it's a hard job, but that's who you're competing against, which is good news. So like if you mentioned to me in the real estate, you're competing against a woman who refused to go into bad neighborhoods or refused to work too hard. But in the insurance industry, it's similar. You're literally competing against people that are like that were working in Amazon warehouses. I'm not sure if you've been on the internet lately, but I've heard these dating applications are pretty popular. Imagine putting that profile up and you meet or go to bars, go to wherever you go. The first thing the girl, everyone's getting divorced. So even if a person got married, fast forward 10 years, it's not there anymore. First thing the girl asks is, what do you do? I'm the assistant manager at McDonald's. That doesn't really sound so good.
Unless she's really hungry.
It doesn't sound good. So a lot of people are getting these licenses specifically to come across as a little bit more professional. The implementation is not that hard. We imitate people that are doing well. The reason people are coming in at 55% at New York Life is specifically because they're spending a lot of money on advertising on TV. They're spending money on managers, on office buildings. You could put that money in your pocket as soon as you realize that this business is completely dependent on you. Completely dependent on you. The website technology that we give you at no strings, no catches, no nothing, it may not make up saying, hey, my name is Joe from New York Life, but it makes up to it to a certain extent because these websites are somewhat impressive. If you looked at any of my previous videos, I've really been harking on this video at the top. If you put the video at the top, you're right up there at a very high level.
It's way more personalized. I mean, they see you.
They see you and they feel comfortable for you because at the end of the day, every sale that you make is my name is XYZ, licensed agent in XYZ, sign here, trust me. Boom, sign. And whatever good feeling they have that you're accessible, available, it increases your close ratio. And when you are making 100% commission versus 55% commission, it means you have more money to play with, to hire assistants, to hire, maybe get better clothes or getting a better tie when you're in front of that people. But you did mention before, David, about that whole issue about is the Zoom change things? It didn't change stuff that much because the how you make money in this business is really the retirement planning. Collecting $30, $40, $50 a month on a final expense, targeting older, poor people who are unsophisticated, who are about to die, targeting poor people is never a great idea when you're selling financial products. If you decide to contract through us in that realm, I'll get you the best deal. In fact, I will put I just changed the at the very bottom where it says email if you want recruiter level contracting from a top 5 life insurance, a major final expense insurer, or any of the dozens of Medicare health companies out there. All you have to do is send me an email to david@naip.org. If you go into the password protected back office, it mentions the word major final expense. If you click that, it takes you to the company that we're majorly encouraging people to contract with. It mentions the commission levels, and you see right in front of your eyes, we start people at 122%, which is definitely a good place to be.
And out of that percentage, how much is given after the sale's made? Is it like 80% or 90%?
Right. the person pays $100 a month, you get $122 a month. If when it says the word second year two, I'm pretty sure it says 15 or 16%. So the person continues paying $100 a month, you get 16. So that's the residual money. That's a decent chunk of change. You can imagine, that's final expense. And the reason there's so many of these marketing companies out there, and they start off agents off at 30, 40, 50, 60, 70%, they're pocketing the difference, which is a huge chunk of change. But I have to
go pay for the big fancy conferences, and because
right, that's what it is. That's what it is. But the agents that are primarily selling that are not. I've just noticed are not succeeding so much. That's final expense. I suppose if you do anything exceptionally well, you do succeed. But I'm a little bit more excited about this top 5 life insurance, and all the top life insurance companies, they specialize in retirement planning, annuities, and bigger type of policies. And that's where you get into the $300, $500, $600, $700, $800 a month on these whole life policies that are paying between 5% and 6%. If you get into the IUL illustrations, it'll show a little bit higher. So you show the New York Life technique. You show these people, these 200 warm people in your market, friends and relatives, you show these people an illustration that's paying between 5% and 7%. Quite a few people will empty out their bank account in the tune of $500, $600, $700, $800 a month. And for the most part, those sales have to be made on a face-to-face basis. And you have to come across as much more professional than I am right now, where I'm not wearing a tie, I'm not wearing a jacket. Sure. And those are the people that are making the money.
What's your second best besides retirement planning?
It mentions right here, it says Medicare. We've got all the Medicare stuff. And if you're into the Medicare stuff, Medicare is nice. There are certifications to be done once a year. That particular insurance, for the most part, is paying equal commissions for the next 10 years. If you don't pass the certifications 1 year, you lose all the residuals. So it's not something I would recommend to someone who's in their 60s or 70s. You would have to, if you start young, and we do set people up at Walmart or Walgreens or any of those retail stores once a year. But when you first come into the business, it's not a bad idea to have a good, broad understanding of the entire industry, especially this retirement planning, because most people know, I don't say you're best friends with 200 people, but we have to imitate the people that are succeeding. And those are the people that are succeeding. I did mention at the beginning of the call, if I repeat myself over and over, it'll get really boring. But I do it anyways, because I don't have a producer in front of me, getting that stick and beating me.
Yet.
But that is the plan, to get that producer doing that. David, tell Mr. Robles, we have the same first name, so I will have to say Mr. Robles. Mr. Robles, so you were selling real estate. How long were you selling real estate?
For about 10 years. We've acquired a big portfolio. We have the rentals and the flips and all that fun stuff. Our goal was to eventually one day get complexes, but you need a lot of money to go into the complex game. Real estate's fun. I mean, the money is unbelievable. And I know a lot of people want to take the courses and they want to try to become an investor and learn the tricks of the trade, but it just never happens. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't go to a course. I was taught by somebody close that I knew. And, there's a lot, it's very technical. It takes a lot to have someone deed you their house and flip it and, do wraps and all that stuff. The money's great when the deal's there. Finding the deal.
Is real estate still cheap in Houston, or it went up a lot?
I think it's going up. I think, anything under 250 grand, you're going to get a nice house. But just over the past year, houses have gone up so much for no reason at all. Zero reason. It's the same house that they sold for 400 grand 3 years ago, and now they want 600,000. And it's just because of the market. I
have a family member who, I don't know why he did this. He bought a house in Houston 5, 6, maybe 8 years ago. What has happened to that house in the last 8 years?
It's gone up.
It was. I saw a picture of it. I saw it was
Even
probably
if it's a nasty little house, 3-bedroom in the middle of the hood, it's gone up in
It
value.
wasn't
You know
in the
what?
hood. It was like middle. It was a middle cheaper house.
You have to think about it. Everybody from California, New York, they're leaving. They're coming to Houston. They're coming to Texas, and their pocketbooks are deep.
Right.
And they're willing to pay.
I have to ask this family member if he didn't do something stupid like sell the house.
But yeah, I mean, most of the Californians are used to paying, $1 million for a 2,000 square foot house. They come here, and they see the same house for 300,000. They're just so excited.
Really? So it's really, and they're doing okay. So you weren't so much in the selling aspect. You were in the fix acquisition and become rich and really become an expert of that. That's a skill set that took you a lot of years to acquire.
Yeah. It's nothing that you can. I mean, the courses that people sell online, it's probably 5% of what it really is to be a producer and to make a deal happen. And the reason I asked about, the Zoom calls and how if the insurance industry had changed a lot was because, back in the day, a year ago, you had to go to a title company to close on a house. Now you don't. There's a Zoom call. There's, DocuSign. Everything's online.
It'll still be the same. Yeah. It'll still be the same per se, where you always try to do stuff faster.
True.
If you could close a deal, without leaving your house, that's the ideal situation, is faster. But attempting to close $400, $500, $600, $700 a month on someone who lives really far away, that you have no option ever to meet that person face to face, is much less likely to happen. If someone is selling these term life policies, $30, $40, $50, $60, $100 a month, ideally it should be to flip that over to a whole life, a permanent type policy. The big advantage that the huge advantage that insurance companies have, if you're going to buy life insurance, you might as well put extra money in it, because that money is growing at a tax deferred, then eventually tax-free basis. And that's the only financial vehicle out there that allows that to happen. So if a person is buying life insurance and they're not taking advantage of that, it's really ridiculous. And salesmen are needed to explain that. People will not, call centers won't be able to do it. It has to be a salesman
to keep the retention there, because you don't want them to cancel 6 months.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, you have to explain to, hey, Joe, you're going to buy a life insurance. You need this for your family or for whatever reason. Throw that extra $400 a month in there, and you'll see this illustration. In that illustration, when you're 65 years old, it'll be a huge chunk of money. You could borrow against that money at a very low interest rate. Eventually a person passes on and you haven't paid taxes on all this extra money. The IRAs and all these tax deferred programs have very specific limits. The life insurance has no limit. And this is showed in an illustration. There are people that want nothing to do with life insurance, but they still buy life insurance policies specifically for this tax deferred basis. Obviously, someone who's wants the life insurance, it makes financial sense for them to fund it additionally. And these illustrations sell themselves. And you need intelligent people to show these illustrations. You cannot have people that got fired from Amazon warehouses and fast food showing this, because they're in front of the people and they don't have the credibility. They don't. In fact, when these people get contracted for these companies that we're encouraging people to contract with, oftentimes they don't even bother looking through learning how to illustrate, which is the most basic thing. So that's one of the reasons why when people come into this industry, they're being hammered to final expense, buy leads. So at least there's some profit margin for the marketer to fill up his pocket before the new agent goes on to that new business. Let's get back to Mr. Robles. So you mentioned, if you've been in that business for quite a while, you must be making money.
Yeah, the money's there. I'm not complaining about it, but I think that the industry itself is transforming itself, you know, and I have to be ahead of the curve, you know. I have to go into an industry that I can build a team because, you know, as an investor, it's me, you know, a couple friends of mine, and that's about it. You can't teach anybody really how to do it because it takes too much time, you know.
And it's money intensive.
It is, and they're willing. And you know, if you teach them the tricks, then they're now your competitors. And a friend of mine is in insurance, and he has a fabulous team. And you know, I don't even think he sells anymore. He has
okay. I got to mention. Let me just mention the financial sales is much more salesman intensive. If you're into this, you know, real estate stuff, you don't have to be a terrific salesman. You could be a terrific handyman. You could have a terrific, you know, figure out, you know, knowing the market. Yeah. Financial sales is getting in front of a person, showing them something and having them sign their name. That's completely salesman. It's almost like having Jerry Seinfeld, an actor. Like, how many people are good actors? Then when you then you have the skill set, you work hard. And those are the people that make money. I speak to people that are licensed agents. And I know based on their voice who's been doing this job for multiple years. They all sound the same.
What, just in sales in general?
I mean, they have the same mode of speaking. They have everything's the same between these successful agents that have been doing it for more than 10 years. They do that technique, you know, monotone voice. My name is, you know, they all sound professional. I suppose if you know, what they teach you at these professional mutual companies such as New York Life and Northwest Mutual, they walk around with suits and ties even when they go to movies. Because they're always
character.
You know, I mean, they're always in character, and they're picking up these customers where they're making, you know, $500, $600, $700, or $800 a month on any person they befriend. And that's how they pull in the big money. So if you could, what we do at this organization, you know, but based on clicking around, we offer this game-changing, very high quality, there's nothing even close out there. No strings, no catches. You sign up for the website, but it's completely up to you to put it on your own domain name, do the proper steps to move up the search engine. We're really gearing up to this white label system where you could give this website to other insurance agents, and these people are going to have no idea that my company exists. That's really where we're gearing up to. And I could tell you, if you succeed, which hopefully you do succeed, you definitely have the skill set, and you're at the proper age, and you know everything is possible. At a certain point, which hopefully is very soon, when new people come into NAAIP, I will simply say, join Mr. Robles' team in Houston, Texas. Very common in this business, when new people come in, they're completely lost. What the other marketing companies are doing is, I spoke to a woman that just a few hours ago. She told me her marketing company, which is one of the 3 biggest ones out there, I believe it's number 3. So I wasn't that familiar what their technique was. And she told me specifically, they encouraged her to sell herself a policy, sell her husband a policy, and immediately afterwards to buy leads, these really expensive leads. And that's just something that I cannot do sitting in front of my computer. That's something you could do. I suppose what this marketing company should be doing, if they were on their ball, was say, hey, write out a list of your 10 or 200 favorite relatives, and you know, and they also should say what New York Life does is learn the product. But they're not that professional.
No.
Because they're gearing towards the lower end market, which is the mortgage protection final expense.
I know the other companies are always focused on recruiting. What are your thoughts on that?
They're trying to get more village idiots in their system so they could sell more leads.
Yeah, it's all about leads now.
So those people will be leads. They are the sale.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is at a certain point in time, I will not be offering direct contracts at these game-changing high levels. And you'll be much more successful at bringing people in to cause revenue than I have been able to. And in order for that to occur, you have to take advantage of what we're offering right now.
Yeah.
Set it up properly, because and there's a bunch of little steps. When I say all you have to do is put the website on your own domain name, do the proper steps to move up the search engine. I could speak to 100 people, 100, a lot of people. I'm specifically always speaking to people that did not get hired by Northwest Mutual or New York Life. That's my, people that Google the word free website online. That's who it is. And it'll be a minuscule amount that will properly implement it. The next step after that is you'll learn the product. So if you implement it, you make money. So when I go through this list of 13,000 people, right now it's 13,124. I suppose if I go back a couple of years to the first people that signed up, and I called them one by one, I say, hey, are you still in the business? I suppose most of them will not be in the business.
So no, they couldn't handle it.
I mean, if you're not making the money, you find a job that pays.
It's horrible.
It's not horrible. It's the way it works.
I wouldn't. I mean, I'm 48, and when I was 40 is when I left. I turned in. I said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore, and I jumped.
Oh, you sold insurance before?
No, I was a teacher at one time, and one summer I just, I said, you know what? I just don't want to go back. I don't know what I'm going to do, but something will fall from the sky. And real estate did.
Well, if you're a teacher, you graduated college, you're a good communicator. You're not embarrassed to, you're not shy to stand in front. So you have the skill set to a certain extent for a lot of these white collar type of professions. The good thing about what I just mentioned, if you succeed in that skill set, hey, you start off at 100% commission versus 55, and the final expenditure of 122 versus 60 or 70. There's a lot of room for you to bring in other people, but first and foremost, you have to succeed yourself.
That's key. Yeah.
There's nothing to talk about. I was, I have spoken to people who, hey, you buy these leads. We flip over to, I'll flip over to my share screen again. We click leads. This is the page that's the Wikipedia of lead generation. There's 4 different lead companies listed here. There's 4 different lead companies listed here. That we're also on uberconference.com. And I just put Kenny on mute. You're more than welcome to, by tomorrow, which is not very far, I will have this restream.com, a direct link, which is located in your password protected NAPE back office. But I will be doing a forward from nape.company. So I'll just tell people, hey, go to that website and it'll get you on our whatever this restream is. In the meantime, I am on screen share. Let me get over to the screen share leads. There's 4 different companies listed here. You can give these companies a call. They're going to tell you the exact. Let me see where they're listed. Kramer Direct, Target Leads, Marva. If you mention NAIP, you'll get discounts through and through. Peter Hignan for lead concepts. These are the 4 largest ones out there. I spoke to a gentleman from one of those multi-level marketings. He did say on a matter-of-fact basis that the average close ratio on these postcards are 25% for final expense mortgage protection. But that may be a sales pitch. You definitely could check it out and see if it's true. I spoke to another but anything you do well, you will succeed. All I'm saying is you'll learn the breadth of the market, concentrate on, if you've got the intellectual capacity, and you have the gumption, and you could get people to show people an illustration that's paying between 5 and 7 or 8% interest. That's a good place to start in this business. And through
In
us,
today's market, that's a lot. 5%. I mean,
right? That's what the illustrations are showing.
yeah.
Through
might get you a bit more, but that's still too risky.
No, the crypto is crazy. It's like I've said it's crazy for a long time, and I spoke to a gentleman who I said it was crazy for 5 years ago, and he reminded me how wrong I was.
It's fun, but if you can't handle the roller coaster ride, it will get you. It's rough.
I'm not sure what's going to happen, because I know when you have dollars, you could go to the local bank and you could buy land, you could buy a house, you could buy a car, and you've got those police officers at the corner that will enforce the value of that dollar. I'm not sure who you could go to based on a computer password and username. That's a little bit weird.
I have 3 people that I rent to. They pay me in crypto, so it works for them. I'll take it.
And in the bank, you could get the cash out of it somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the typical, Chase, the big banks. You have to go through something like crypto.com, but yeah, it's
and they transfer the money to you.
It goes in as like Bitcoin, and then you sell the Bitcoin for a US dollar that goes into it. Yeah, it's.
Wow. So if that continues, it's all good.
Yeah.
Until it doesn't continue.
Until it crashes.
Until like the main computer doesn't exist anymore. It's like, what do we do?
Go back to the old cash system.
No, but whatever people say about governments, the governments, have this currency thing that has worked out pretty well. So, Mr. Robles, what I'd like to do, remember, it's the implementation that matters. I looked at this YouTube a couple years ago, and I said, hey, wouldn't it be nice if I, conquered YouTube? I paid a girl a couple years ago to upload a bunch of videos. That's why we have, close to a little over 1,500 subscribers. I made a couple of videos that did not have my face on it. I realized, hey, I've got to conquer this myself. I noticed that there were a few people that were doing good videos that had their face on it, and it's just me looking at what they were doing didn't help. It's me actually imitating, then eventually doing it in a superior method. There's so many organizations that are successful at selling insurance, and the ones that are marketing you for the most part are not included in that list. As a general rule. That's exactly what all these marketing companies are going through, and hopefully you do succeed. So you've got money coming in from these apartments?
Houses, yeah.
Houses.
Unfortunately, we only focused on individual houses for many, many years. We never really jumped ship and decided to, buy a complex, which would have been better off, but they're not really facing the issues of, they don't pay rent. They're there for 4 or 5 months. Apartment complexes in Texas operate a little bit differently. You don't pay, they change the lock and they can kick you out.
Oh, they've got different laws from houses to. Oh, so you just weren't connected to the politicians, how they
exactly
wrote the law. So the
Good.
Apartment owners were connected to politicians. These are guys that own, millions of dollars of property, and they contribute to local politicians. Mm-hmm. And homeowners like yourself weren't as connected, apparently.
No. I mean, just the average rent house that we have, they're, you may only be making, $200 or $300 a month, which seems like a lot, but the minute something goes wrong, you're putting in a new roof or something happens. At the end of the day, it's always better to have, a big complex where,
right.
You have bigger insurances and you can, they cover more stuff. But, I'm not complaining.
So your renters, they don't have to pay rent. There's a moratorium on paying rent.
Yes. There's a moratorium against us evicting them because they have not paid rent.
Wow. So what percentage are not paying rent?
20%.
Oh, that which is it could be worse.
Yeah.
Are these people going to get bad credit and get sued at the end of this moratorium?
I work with them. I mean, I said, look, you know what? Pay me what you can. Eventually, we'll get back on track. Eventually, you'll get a job. Eventually, the stuff that we applied with the government will eventually compensate us for the rent that we have not received. So, but that's going to take, a year or two for us to even get any money from the government in regards to us not, collecting from these people.
But eventually, you're gonna evict these people as soon as when the moratorium is over. You file like the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much the next day. You may wait 2 days, but you'll file.
But, the insurance business has always just been so fascinating. I mean, 20 years ago, I was part of, I don't know if you remember the old prepaid legal days.
I remember that.
And I joined back then, and for a decade, I received commissions from people that they kept their policy,
Right.
And I didn't really continue with that, but
well, it's a very steady business if you come across as a professional person. A good product line. You're pitching a good product line, and you have a system set up where you're selling on a regular basis. And as soon as you sell on a regular basis, you could, if you've got our system where by that time we'll have the white label system, you bring people in, they'll have no idea that my company exists. That's where you could really take off. I'm bringing in new people. Let me just, you may not be aware of this. The whole reason that insurance companies or multi-level marketing companies they're using multi-level marketing companies, it's completely because of advanced commissions. If you speak to these marketing companies, they tell you, hey, we're not, the marketing company will tell you the insurance companies use us because the insurance company is not good at marketing. Like, we're experts at marketing, which is not true. It's completely false. These insurance companies are using marketing companies specifically regarding bad debt and advanced commissions. They're very actuarially sound on what their rates are. There's no varying from that. They don't want to go into any risk. So if any sort of marketing company could show multiple millions of dollars or even hundreds of thousands of money coming in, there's the assumption that there's no risk on any sort of advanced commissions, or even a policy that's sold 1 year in advance, the person cancels, the agent got the commission, et cetera. Boom, that's fraud. That's paying commissions on stuff that wasn't sold. So they're using marketing companies. The multi-level marketing companies also don't want to, the ones that are successful don't want to assume the risk as well for these people that they don't know. So they get agents. You did ask previous why they're always telling you to recruit. Here's the answer. Once you're the recruiter, you're assuming the bad debt or the risk of the person below you.
Wow.
A lot of agents, a lot of experienced agents who got caught up in this, they're completely defrauded or frauded by their upline or their marketing company, them not telling them that. They don't realize how risky it is until that money comes out of their paycheck.
So if you have a bad downline, you're going to really pay for it.
For the most part, if you go into a business where the numbers speak for themselves, that you've seen online, that 90% don't stick around, it seems like not such a good idea. So I'm telling you, do not get excited about recruiting. The reason we're building this white label system is specifically because these other marketing companies are doing it, and it gets the agents excited. It doesn't mean they're succeeding. It just gets them excited. I suppose there are some, top level people that are succeeding in that system, but it's very relatively few. It's not relative. It's a really small number. It's a minuscule number.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to keep in mind, if you look at the personal emails that are sent to you from david@naip.org, I'm not sure if I've sent you a personal email, there's a button there that says, click here if you're interested in advanced commission, and you will notice it's a very strict contract that states there's no bankruptcy, no jurisdiction, there's lawyer fees, the worst contract you'll ever see in your world, in the world. And if someone wants advanced commissions, they will have to sign that. They will have to put in 2 credit cards. No one's doing anything with the credit card, but I suppose if someone has you sign that type of contract, you're much less likely to take the upline to the cleaners. What I would suggest, if you ever get into this recruiting other insurance agent business, is take that contract, you Google the word edit online PDF free, something will pop up. You edit the name of my company to the name of your company, and anyone who you bring in, make sure they sign that with a copy of their driver license as well.
Okay.
It was just a couple of days ago, probably the big FMO, the big multi-level marketing company in the business that's all over Facebook. There's a gentleman that sounded respectable. He was from Colorado. I spoke with him. He had $10,000 of debt. And he was still somewhat loyal to this multi-level marketing. So I had to explain to him that I saw a video of this multi-level marketer company owner. And he specifically stated on the video, hey, bring people on, get them 10% below you. And there's another portion of the video he was talking about there's no contracts. So what he was trying to do is encourage this sucker from Colorado to bring someone below him at 10% lower, not have these people below him sign a contract, because it's no big deal. What do we need contracts with? So this guy got suckered for $10,000. So now he wants nothing to do with recruiting people. If he got that piece of paper signed beforehand, it could be that the people he recruited would say, hey, I don't feel like going to small claims court and losing. They would just pay it back.
Yeah.
Or if they
recruiting sounds all nice and it sounds beautiful, but in theory, if you can't do it yourself,
right, it would have to be him doing something well, him adding some sort of value added, him having a airtight contract, which protects him and makes the people that he recruited scared out of their living wits to rip off the insurance company, which is actually ripping off the upline. But his upline, which is the 800-pound gorilla in this industry right now of recruiting people, they're especially popular on Facebook. They're all over Facebook. And I saw this video, I almost had to barf. When I saw this video, it was specifically designed to take this guy to the cleaners, and it took him to the cleaners to the tune of $10,000. So you have to be a
beautiful picture for him.
But the reason I sometimes I go along with it, like when new people come in, I talk about, hey, we're setting up this recruiting system. You are at the highest level, so that's definitely a good place to be if you're going to recruit for anything. But that is the specific reason why multi-level marketing companies exist, to protect themselves against bad debt, advanced commission, and all that stuff. So be really careful. It's not, and that is the scoop there. Okay, let me get. Let's get David. So tell us. So you're 48 years old. You're coming into this business, the real estate. You have money coming into from your prior projects.
Yes. Yeah.
I suppose you feel you're good at sales. Is that why you're moving in the direction of insurance?
I wouldn't say specifically good at sales. Just just sharing an idea with somebody, whether it be real estate or, insurance. I think, it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but, for me, it's just time to do something else. I mean, the real estate will be there. The money keeps coming in, but I still need, from what I've seen on the amount of money that can be made just individually selling it. I mean, that trumps real estate in every sense, you know.
Right. It's very much salesman centric. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's the main difference between what you were doing. What you were doing was an organization, investment money, management, and fixing and legal. This is pure getting in front of someone and closing a deal. That's all it is. It's
But it's
relatively.
quick. I mean, if your real estate takes so long, even if you were to like a wholesale a house, you know, you find a house, get a contract, take it to the, you know, the title company. That's like a whole month to get what, maybe $2,000 or $3,000. That's not worth
I get
it,
you.
you know?
Well, this is pure sales. Pure sales.
Yeah.
Let's get Jeff on this call. Jeff, hopefully you fix your microphone by this point. Hello, Jeff from Kentucky.
Yes. Can
Jeff,
you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Your microphone sounds beautiful. Jeff,
Okay.
you were in the sales business for a long time. Insurance sales. Is that correct?
Well, actually, I was a high school teacher and basketball coach here in Kentucky, and I did insurance on the side because we all know how much teachers make, and that's not very much. So
Actually,
I did.
teachers, they get paid okay. What's the salary now for a starting teacher?
Starting probably 35, 40 maybe.
And what is it after 20 years?
You could be up, depending on your education level. If you get your master's in rank 1, you're probably looking at about 70 maybe, somewhere in that range.
And the pension you get, is it a 20 years or a 30 or 40? When does the
Well,
pension?
you can retire after 27 in Kentucky, and that's what I've done. And so I'm looking part-time, but move it to full-time basis once I get my feet on the ground.
Okay, I don't want to get too personal. I won't be talking about you personally, but for other people, what percentage of the final salary ends up being a lifetime pension?
Why you think I'm looking for a second job?
I mean, is it 50%, 40%, 60%? What's the pension?
It's probably somewhere in that ballpark. I mean, I don't know. I haven't run the numbers, so
Okay, we're cool. We're good. We're good. Okay, so again, insurance, is a hardcore getting in front of people, closing the deal. Some people, in a way, enjoy that. This is what they enjoy doing. Even if it was a free job, they would still do it to a certain extent because they like doing it. I suppose those are the people that are much more likely to succeed. This job happens to have two aspects to it. Doing that aspect, which is closing. The second aspect is getting in front of people. The getting in front of people is what causes people to not succeed, because it's a second aspect to the job. I've noticed a lot of husband and wife teams succeed. Or if a person comes into the business with a big chunk of change, which may be the situation in what the two of you are going through, you could hire an assistant, and that assistant's job, hey, I'm the closer, I'm the rain man. Your job is to make sure I have what to rain on. And to get an intelligent person to take that opportunity, you may have to pay them $20, $25 an hour, but it's possible because it is a two-person operation.
Yes.
For it to really succeed. So what Mr. Robles was talking about before, that he's really, he's in the age of his life where he wants to succeed and really make it happen in the next 10 years. That's how you make it succeed. Because in essence, when you do close a deal, you are making, if it's let's say a mortgage protection final expense, $800, $700, $800, $900. If you're into these bigger type policies, it's, multiple thousands of dollars. The hard part is initially to learn the product. The final expense mortgage protection is relatively easy. That's, instead of passing the hat, you have an insurance policy. And the tremendous embarrassment of a person living their entire life in dignity and suddenly they're passing a hat in the funeral, the life insurance policy would prevent that. The retirement planning is more of showing an illustration, and you come into these bigger type policies. But in either case, an assistant would help. Two-person operations, I've noticed, do exceptionally well. So if anyone can, so these numbers that you were talking about, Jeffrey, about, hey, teachers don't make that much money. At $70,000, it's not bad. The average insurance agent who is not being hired by a major financial institution isn't making anywhere near that. Just to let you know, the people that join NAAIP over the past couple of years are nowhere near that on average. I can tell you, based on speaking to these, hearing these sob stories of people coming in and out of the business, the vast majority of people are not succeeding. They're just not succeeding. So, these numbers that but when you mentioned about education, these are people that went to college, graduated college, they, graduated high school. So that's the good news, is that this is your competition who you're going against when you're selling policies. And specifically about these mutual companies that are hiring people after college, they're hiring people who are in their early 20s. Someone who's in their, later in age, that life insurance is more expensive when you're older. I speak matter of factly about people putting in $400, $500, $600, $700 a month into these retirement plans. Not too many 20-year-olds are putting $800 into their retirement plan every month.
No.
So it's definitely doable, but the part about getting in front of people involves a game plan. And it's really the implementation. It's like me talking about YouTube the last 4 or 5 years. If it doesn't get implemented, no one does it. It's just not there. So hopefully it succeeds, Jeffrey. And,
yes.
So you'll be retaking that license in the next couple of days, or the next couple of weeks, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm going to sign up and get started on the class here in the next day or so. So they say about a couple of weeks, and then I'll be able to go take the test.
And you took the test before. The coupon code that I gave you, was it a $14.99 or $19.99?
I think it was $19.99, but that was still a big break, because I think the class is around $199.
Well, that's a big discount.
That's a big discount. So that's why I emailed you and said that it was, a great break for anybody looking to get in.
I get you. Okay, so you'll start right afterwards. When you were in the business, Jeffrey, multiple years ago, or when did you lose the license?
It's been about 3 years ago.
And you were doing this part-time while teaching?
Yes, very part-time, yes.
I get you. And how many years did you have a license?
10 years, maybe. 10.
I get you. And how much money did you make during that 10 years from insurance?
10 years. With it being very part-time, it was very part-time income. So I'm guessing maybe 10,000, maybe about an extra $1,000 a year.
That's all it was. Wow. And errors in admission, which allows you to sell these real insurance companies, run about $400 a year.
Right. 4 to 5. Yeah.
So it really wasn't worth it.
No,
during that
it wasn't.
It wasn't worth it. It definitely was not worth it.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't.
Okay. Okay, Jeffrey, I don't want to give you a backhanded compliment, but your persona as a former school teacher, as a current, where you explain stuff all day and you're an educated person, you're actually more suitable for this business than a lot of the people that I see coming in. So
Thank you.
your story about making, $10,000 over 10 years, is relatively success. There are people coming in who lose their shirt buying leads. So that's good news. At least you didn't lose money.
Yeah, I did not. Yeah. But trying to move into it now and make a decent second income is.
But you get the point. You learn the product, you get in front of people, you walk home, you do it the next day, and you make $1,000 a day or $1,000 a week, or however it's supposed to end up. So you get the basic point. What products were you selling during this 10-year period?
Just basic, either term or whole life. So I mean, most of it came from referrals, not with me buying leads.
So you didn't buy leads.
Well, no, occasionally I would, but most of everything that I was able to write, came through on a referral base.
And the whole life policies that you bought, were those to younger people or older?
Younger.
Oh, so
people.
they were younger. Were you selling through a mutual company?
No. Well, actually, I was selling through Transamerica.
Okay, which may not be such a bad deal.
Right.
The negative about Transamerica, it's owned by a Dutch company. Their international headquarters is in Dutch. I believe that's called Amsterdam or somewhere close to there.
Okay.
So what we're tremendously encouraging people to contract with us for, which says right at the bottom of this page, recruiting level contracting for top 5 life insurer. That's a mutual insurance company. Mutual insurance company is an American-based company. I cannot mention them online because we are offering approximately 3.33% more commission times. That's times. There is a major marketing company out there that starts all new agents at 30%. When you start people at between 90 and 100, you could ruffle the waters quite a bit if I publicize their name, and I would have to delete the video completely. So right. I just don't mention their name. It just makes it a lot easier.
Sure.
The mutual insurance companies on a whole life basis you cannot compete against them. The dividends, the profits of the insurance companies roll into these policies. And that's why they show between 5 and 6% interest rate right now. If it's a for-profit company, the whole life policies, how much were they paying? The prime rate?
I'm sorry.
How much? What was the interest rate showing on these illustrations of whole life policies?
Oh, it was anywhere probably between 3 and 5 or 6%.
Which is a little bit more than you could get in the bank?
Yes.
Okay, on the mutual companies, it'll be a lot more than you could get in the bank. That's the difference. So on a compound basis for lifetime income that eventually borrow against the money, that is the reason why when you run into these companies that are hiring career agents, they're all mutual companies.
Okay.
Because that's where you make the decent money when you get these younger people putting in, big money into them, as opposed to, the people that you were the whole life, and the term life is a little bit, it's pretty hard to explain to someone, hey, you're about to die in the next 20 years. Let's buy a life insurance policy. Those whole life, those terms are used to convert to whole life. These people have to be approached on a constant basis to show them that illustration, how you could get your money growing at 5-6% interest on a guaranteed base, on a quasi-guaranteed basis, because they are the owners of the policy. And that's how you can make a living. It's very hard to make a living on these for-profit companies.
Right.
The term policies, these were people that you knew as well?
Yes. Yep.
I get you. Okay, so I guess this, as we do have Mr. Robles on this call, so the technique that New York Life has been using for the last 100 years, it seems like Jeffrey was using the same technique, not even knowing he was, even though he was an independent insurance agent during this 10-year period. That's where his sales came from.
Pretty much.
The training that you should have self-taught yourself was to hammer these term life sales to buy the whole life 1 year later.
Right.
Which is,
looking back, that's exactly what I should have been doing that.
Well, you do have a second chance.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, hopefully
maybe even a third chance. Who knows?
Well, maybe not a third chance. After that, it's shuffleboard. You're gonna have to go to Florida and play shuffleboard.
I might have to do that now. You never know.
I get you, but that's really what we're offering. If if you get the website set up well, even though Mr. Robles mentioned, David Robles mentioned about the recruiting, he wants to do a team. That's a bunch of hate to use the word malarkey, but it's not something you should really consider. It usually ends up a bad story unless you have something so convincing and so game changing that it can be done. And as a first, that I did mention about that contract that all those people should sign at a minimum. But it's not the end of the world to be collecting, $500, $600, $700 a month on a regular basis. It could be worse.
Sure.
And that money goes in your pocket. You start off at, let's say, 90. I very specifically in the password protected back office, I do mention, you show good income, or what does it mention there? It's 90 for new people in the business. If you're experienced, it's 100%. So after a couple of sales, easily you'll be at 100% commission.
Right.
As opposed to what New York Life is doing, which is 55%.
Right.
Okay, so we are good. We've all been on this call for quite a while. Is there anything that you want to tell us that's happening in Kentucky right now that we should know about?
Not really. We just got through the Derby, and now we're looking to, everybody's starting to be out of school, so the kids will be more, no, they've been at home obviously because of all the COVID stuff, so a little bit different than when I was teaching. So even though it's just been a couple years, 2 or 3 years ago.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. So we have to end with Houston, Texas. Mr. Robles, after our conversation, any different thoughts going through your head after you've heard this information that I've mentioned?
I think, the